Now, for some reason, perhaps it's the lovely weather and the water, the South attracts some pretty impressive fundraising efforts. And on the leaderboard for all of those who challenge themselves to make a difference, I think is Ken Fowler from Mudderford, be somewhere near the top at least. He's just finished sailing around every island in the country in his bathtub boat to raise money for cancer research. And he left the best and possibly hardest to last, the Isle of Wight. Ken joins me now. Ken, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Alan.
And now I say bathtub boats, but we don't want people to think that you were in a bathtub.
No, I try and kind of get over the size of my boat to people. And literally, if you sit in your bathtub, my boat is literally twice as big as your bathtub. And to be honest, most of the time, just about as wet as your bathtub.
The radio is yours, really, Ken. What brought this on? How long did it take? And where were the biggest challenges?
Well, for me, it originally started about 8 years ago. Like most men, I had a midlife crisis when I got to 50. My midlife crisis was suddenly realising I'd spent as much of my life without my father, who sadly died of cancer, as I had with him. Having lost 5 of my uncles and aunties as well to cancer, I kind of wanted to celebrate his kind of life. And to raise funds for cancer research and Oakhaven Hospice in Lymington. So we sailed around the Isle of Wight 8 years ago, and it's like anything. If you do one adventure, people say, well, kind of what you're going to do next. You've sailed around the Isle of Wight. How about sailing around the UK? And for me, that was kind of task impossible. You know, I had a job, family, but what I did do was sail my little small dinghy all the way from Land's End to John O'Groats. We raised £37,000, which was incredible. But we were trying to raise a massive £50,000, which kind of comes from a couple of facts, one of which is sad, one of which is really positive. The sad fact is 50% of us get cancer, but the great work that cancer research does means that 50% of those people will now either be cured or live longer than 10 years. So it's a really positive message. And kind of having raised £37,000, I really wanted to get to the £50,000. Anybody facing cancer doesn't have the option to stop partway through. So we came up with this new idea, inspired by when I sailed all the way through Scotland. I saw so many magical islands, and I always wondered what the other side of the island looked like. And inspired by my original Isle of Wight trip, we decided to sail around every island in England and Wales, which turned out to be a bigger adventure than I thought. We've now been doing it for 3.5 years. We've travelled around 262 islands, and the sailing distance we've just finished now, the Isle of Wight, is the equivalent of going from Land's End all the way to the Canary Islands in a dinghy that weighs the same amount as a Labrador dog.
That's amazing. And do you know what? I think a lot of people go, 260 islands. I didn't even know there was 260 islands. I know there's going to be a lot, certainly, around Scotland. Ridiculous questions then, Ken. Which island was the hardest and which was your favourite?
Really good question. Hardest island, because it took 4.5 days to do it, was Anglesey. So the Isle of Wight was my biggest long day sail. I sailed for 13 hours on Wednesday. But the Isle of Wight sail was about 70 miles. When I sailed around Anglesey, it was 104 miles. So that was really, really tough, very, very tidal. Favourite island I have is a little island off of Anglesey called Cribbenow, which is a magical church on it. As the tide comes out, you kind of walk across a set of stepping stones to get there, and just amazing. But in the south, we've got some really challenging islands. One of the most challenging is actually Portsea. So I actually managed to sail around Portsea Island, but it meant I had to take my mast down, get a paddle out and paddle under 6 bridges before I could sail around the rest of the island. So we've carried the boat over roads, we've capsized under bridges. But if we can get around an island, we've really, really tried to do it.
Yeah, that'll put you to the test. And Ken, because everyone else will be asking you this now, and you'll probably feel like you want to weep, are you going to do something ridiculous next, or are you going to have a few days just to enjoy the space?
Do you know what? I'm thinking of a few years, actually.
Come on, Ken. I don't believe it. You'll have got used to your own company by now. You'll be addicted to it. It's a crazy thing, but I've spoken to loads of people and they go, yeah, no, nothing. And then after a few months, they think, oh, do you know what? I just fancy something else.
I'd just like to point out my wife's listening, so I'm absolutely definitely not doing anything.
Yeah, okay, good answer. Ken Fowler, thank you very much indeed. You can find out loads more. Jump online, jump onto our Facebook site, Ken Fowler, the Mudderford Sailor. 260 islands, gone round them all raising money for cancer research. Incredible stuff.